Just taking a little walk in the cemetery during lunch. And what I want to talk about today is what I call the crapification of society. There are just so many things that have gone downhill since, even 10, 20 years ago. And a lot of it has to do with cell phones and now AI and just the inflation of just about everything. I mean, the last 4 years I've seen inflation probably go up at least 30%. Housing has gone up. I mean, my house is supposedly increased in value by about 60%. My property taxes have gone up over 50%. But what I'm noticing in the last 10 years is that we're all just so hooked on our phones, and that includes myself. I'm very guilty of that. In fact, I have my phone right now. Always have my phone. And that's really bad. That's a bad reflection on us because we cannot give up our phones. We look at our phones when we're eating, when we're supposed to be enjoying people at the restaurants. I see a lot of people still looking at their phones when they're driving. That I don't do. I mean, there has to be a time when you can just leave the phone at home. And I need to work on that myself. But the other thing I notice is so many more people are walking with their phones, with their heads down, tapping at their phones. They have no idea what's going on around them, and then worse still, some people even have earphones on so they can't even hear what's going on around them, which is very dangerous because somebody can come right up behind you and knock you to the ground. There could be a lot of stuff going on around you, like a lot of these insane shooting events. I mean, there's just so many random things now that seem to be happening at a faster and faster clip. So you need to have situational awareness, and then you need to also know how to defend yourself. You cannot be a sitting duck. So there's lots of channels that do show you how to get self-defense skills, and also they point you to the right people who can give you the self-defense skills if they're not talking about it. So we just need to stop using our cell phones so much. I mean, there was another channel, I listened to Jeremiah Babe, and he mentioned that he read an article where people spend 10 hours a day on the internet. So that is very detrimental to society, and that is causing a lot of obesity, and I think just a lot of apathy. And what I notice is that a lot of people, they're so glued to their TV shows. They must watch their TV shows no matter what. I mean, they've got to record them. They've got to rush home to watch the TV shows. And I never had that growing up. I was never compelled to rush home to watch a TV show. It's just unbelievable how many of us are now just addicted to these shows. You gotta go and watch Amazon, you gotta go and watch Netflix and Paramount and on and on and on, and you spend your whole day in front of the TV. And what kind of life is that? So, to me, I call that one aspect of the crapification. Then the other thing I've noticed is the poor customer service. Many times you can't get a hold of a live person. You're stuck with a chat box. And it takes forever to get a hold of somebody. And when you do get a hold of somebody, they make all these promises and nothing happens. A case in point, we were trying to get something set up with our bank and then wasted all this time having a meeting, and this was early June, and it wasn't until a week ago that we actually got this thing set up, but only after call after call and email after email, and you're trying to reach somebody and that person's on vacation, the other person's on vacation. So it took almost 2 months to get something done that they promised would have been done in a week. So you get a lot of that. A lot of people just not taking the project seriously, and then they hand it off to somebody else, and then they need to go on vacation. Vacation's more important. And that can be a symptom, and it probably is a symptom of corporate America wanting to cut costs. So then they cut costs by only having the bare minimum amount of people in the role to help you. So I can't blame the individuals 100%, because they've probably got so much on their plate because of corporate America just wanting to have the bare minimum of everything. And I have another term for that. I call it the lowest common denominator effect, where companies are just trying to just squeeze so much only to get the bare essence of something, to get it just to work. Like almost like draining water from your tub into a sieve, and then what's left in the sieve? Well, those are all the resources you're getting, because we want to make our profits. So I think it goes down to that as well. Then you have the technology, the AI that's taking over, and the AI which will accelerate. And yeah, I'm not totally against AI. I love AI for identifying how to code things better, more efficiently, especially because I do work with a lot of reporting. So anything that can streamline how I design reports, yeah, I like that. But I don't like people's jobs being taken away just in the name of AI. I think that's going to cause even further crapification of society. That's going to cause so many problems beyond anything that I can talk about today. That would be a whole separate video. Then the other thing I noticed is you make a purchase, you spend more and more money for the same thing or something that's even lesser quality than before, and you're bombarded with emails and texts. Oh, can you give us a review? We're waiting for you to give a review. So not only have you had to pay for this thing, now they're expecting you to spend more of your time, more of the time that you don't have, to provide reviews. And then the reason why we have less time is because we're bombarded with emails and text and all this other technology stuff that was supposed to save us a bunch of time. We were supposed to have all this free time, but we don't, because now we've got social media. And I thank God I never opened an account with Facebook or any of that, because when they first were created, and I believe they were kind of like the cool people's club where you had to get an invite, I thought, yeah, well, they're just there to get your data, and that found out to be the only reason why they're there, for data harvesting. So I never joined it. So I'm one of the fortunate ones where most of my time is not spent on social media, but a lot of people's time is, because they have to keep up with appearances. Oh, well, I got this car and I got this house. Oh, I'm so successful. I'm going to this restaurant and that restaurant. I went to this store. So they feel that they need to validate themselves. And so, to make themselves feel better by showing off. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that feel they have to be on social media, constantly depicting their entire lives. I mean, you got Instagram, you got Facebook, you got because I don't use these things, WhatsApp. I was invited, people have told me, oh, join WhatsApp, and then I'm glad I didn't, because then Meta bought them. So yeah, I guess I'm an old fogey, I'm an old person, because I'm not on it, but compared to a lot of people, I feel freer, because I'm not in the digital web, I'm not a digital slave, but a lot of people are. So, but that's another deterioration of society. We're all online, we don't meet in person as much as we did. And the thing that I kind of miss, and yeah, it's gonna age me, but who the hell cares? Because so who the hell cares about the aging? But what I do miss is snail mail, how you would actually get a letter from somebody from the other side of the world. I had pen pals, and now we do it by email, and it's definitely not the same. You don't see the stamps, you don't see the postcards, so that's definitely been lost. You don't meet as much in person with people, you're just talking on the phone or emails, and then we don't read like we used to. We're all reading online, and then we skim the content so that we're not reading the entire text, we're not getting the whole crux of anything. We're just getting a summary. And that, to me, I find that very dangerous to society, because you get the media and people are, they just provide misinformation to influence people. So I think because people don't read as much, they just go by the first thing that they see, so they don't want to look in deeper, because we're all conditioned to be lazy. And I think that's by design. They want us to be lazy and uninformed. But I think that's kind of, I think people are starting to wake up a little bit on that, in that regard. But we still need to read more. And yeah, ebooks are fine, but there's nothing that replaces the paper book. I'm sorry. I like my paper books. I have a whole room full of them. And yeah, some people can say that I have clutter in my office with all my books. But who cares? Who the heck cares? I'm not selling my house. I'm not having my house photographed for Better Homes and Gardens. So who cares? The more clutter, the better. But so that's one thing that I've noticed. And then you got the products. The cars are becoming piles of crap now. I've read various articles about how people are starting to go back to the old cars, and that is really why used cars have not gone down in price. There's a reason for that. It's because cars are so expensive now, to be bought new. Plus, they're turning into piles of crap. They're just turning into computers on wheels. So then when something breaks, which it always seems to happen, even with the Toyotas and Lexuses now, you have a huge expense. So people are going to use cars, and I think that will only accelerate. And that applies to me. I leased the car because I'm afraid to buy one, just for that fact that I'm going to get a lemon. So I leased the car. It's almost 3 years now, and I need to decide, okay, am I going to lease another car, or should I just buy the car I have? And unfortunately, looking at the same brand, looking at their newer models, their newer models are complete piles of crap. Just crapified. I mean, now the dashes are 100% digital. The materials are all plastic. You've got piano black all over the place. Yeah, the car looks snazzy. It's got a new design, but you gotta drive it. You have to put up with a digital dash that's distracting as all hell, because I test drove it. I could not stand it. So I know what I'm going to do. I'm just buying the car I have, because so far it has not given me any problems. But what I think I'm going to do, just to protect myself, is extend the lease another 6 months And then if I have no problems with the vehicle, then I will definitely purchase it. So that's the plan in my case. But I hear people telling me that they know people that are going and looking for 1970s vehicles because those vehicles, they were like the pinnacle of luxury. If you had Buick Park Avenue, or my dad had a Cadillac Coupe de Ville, I mean, my God, you talk about luxury. I liked the Cutlasses, the Cordovas, so many cars. And my parents even had a Buick LeSabre, and I loved the Buick LeSabre because they had the velour seats. And I can't get velour seats. They had, their seats were like a brownish velour, like a beige, and the car was beige, and it was a beautiful car. So, yeah. And then you had some of these vehicles, they were convertibles, just very classic, sharp vehicles, and you just can't get that anymore. Now it's just a bunch of plastic. They don't even have bumpers. You can't work on them yourselves. My dad taught us how to work on our cars, and I used to change my spark plugs, change my oil and air filter and stuff like that. You can't do that anymore. I wouldn't dare try to do it in my vehicle now. So if I get the car, I will buy an extended warranty. Yeah, you can't do any of that yourself, and it's by design. They want the cars to break down, so you have to keep getting more, and then they're going to infuse the car with a bunch of AI crap, and you don't know what the hell is going to happen with your vehicle, because the AI is not fully tested. So I watched this AI conference, and Joe Allen, who is an expert on AI and transhumanism, you can look him up on the internet. Joe Allen, I think it's joeallenbot.com. But he was talking to a guy who was really involved in the creation of AI. And this guy said, well, you don't look at AI as a bunch of coding. AI is something that's grown. And basically he said they don't know where it's going to go, so they just grow this thing and keep feeding it data from the internet and rating everything that they can, no matter whose data it is. So they grow this data, and they don't know where it will end up. So they want to put this in your vehicles, and God help us if they want to use AI to help design buildings or do engineering work. I mean, do you really want AI to design that? Do you want AI to operate on your body? But everyone just seems like, oh, we're so excited, there's a lot of people that are trying to push this AI like it's the greatest thing. And yeah, I could be for AI if it was properly tested over a span of many more years than what they plan on they want to implement it as quickly as possible. So it's total insanity. And then their excuse is that we have to beat China. But all the while, the U.S. government is allowing AI chips to be sent to China. So tell me that makes sense. Tell me. It's the dumbest thing. So it's almost like, in that regard, I try to be spiritual about it, and realize that there's a higher power. So as my mom used to say it, she always said, give it to God. And that's kind of where I'm at with this, because I can't get myself all worked up and stressed about it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm giving it to God, but I'm kind of trying to tell people, because it's going to have such a mass impact on society that we don't even know what this will do. And so that's why I just say give it to God, but at the same time you just let your voice be heard with DC if you can. Because Mr. T, he signed the executive order for the AI action plan. If you go to whitehouse.gov, read the action plan, it just seems like he's given the big tech keys to the kingdom. So God knows where this is going to go. And then the thing that I think is that if people want to play God, then let God do what he feels he has to do, because that's where I give it to God, where people are doing stupid things like this, then they have to suffer the consequences. We have to suffer the consequences. So we can only do what we can do. And as I don't know who the philosopher was, but he always said make your own garden, and that's another thing I live by. I kind of went on a tangent with that, but that goes to say with cars, they want to put AI in vehicles. And with the self-driving cars, they already have that, and already people have lost their lives with the self-driving cars. Then you have appliances, piles of crap. I bought a house where the appliances are now well over 20 years old, and the appliance guys all tell me keep them as long as you can because they're good appliances. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to keep these things as long as I can, and just buying the parts when they're needed. But knock on wood 1,000 times, they're working fine. More than 20 years old. My washer and dryer's over 10 years old, or about 10 years old. Knock on wood. So my brother bought a GE washer and dryer, and he had already, and the units weren't that old, and he already had issues with the board, the computer board, and then they replaced it, and he was going round and round in circles, because then they would replace something and then something else would go wrong. So we finally got that resolved after weeks and weeks. He didn't have to pay anything, and he refused to pay for a new washer and dryer, which I can't blame him. So I give him kudos. He had a lot of patience, more patience than I would ever have. I probably would have given up and gotten a new washer and dryer. I don't know. Maybe I would have had patience. But, you know, I've know people who got brand new kitchens, brand new spanky new appliances. This one I know got KitchenAid, and she had problems within the first year, and her appliances weren't that cheap. In fact, the repair guys tell me that only Bosch is halfway decent now for dishwashers. They haven't really given me an answer about refrigerators. But that's planned obsolescence to the 100,000th power. I can't even talk. I need water. But that's all crappy. You can't really find anything that's any decent. I mean, I have to get a record player from eBay to find a record player to play my old 45s, because I bought, oh, here's a guy, he's stealing a tree. So I purchased a stereo system from Awaya or AWAI. It used to be good, and the thing lasted a couple months, and luckily I was able to get my money back. The thing just totally fried out for some reason, and that included a record player. And then I heard those Crowleys. My brother, he's one of those electronic gurus. I mean, he builds his own radios and stuff like that. And he said never to get a Crowley. Wow, that tree must have come down recently. Yes, we had a storm just a couple days ago, I think it was. And it must have been worse out here. This is west of where I live. We didn't get the winds. I think it was on the weekend we got the storm. The days are going by so fast I can't even remember. That's quite a large tree. I imagine they'll probably grind it up and use it as mulch somewhere. And then a lot of stuff I find that I have to buy on eBay. I mean, just like I bought my record player from eBay that's still working. It works pretty well. As my brother said, go look on eBay. And in many cases, you only have to replace the tubes. And my brother's got all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's another example of the crapification. And then there's just also this deterioration of decorum, of manners. And I mean, you hear all these stories about people getting randomly attacked, and I don't know, like they had this instance in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is, I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, where this couple got brutally beaten, and that is terrible, and I hope these people, these perpetrators, get the full punishment. But I don't know the full circumstances of what happened, and even if they had an argument, that doesn't justify beating these people where they had to go to the hospital. That's just insanity, and that just goes to show how far down society's becoming, where it's almost like the purge. So if you have a little argument, then you might get beaten to a pulp, you might get shot. And that's what I tell my husband, where sometimes he likes to slow down when people want to get around him, and I said just let them go around, or he doesn't let them get in, because I told him, I said, one of these days you're going to get shot. So for me, I just let them go ahead of me. I'd rather these lunatics are ahead of me, and then they're out of my sight, out of my way, than to have them behind me. But anything like that, it's just a spark for somebody to do something, just like kill you. And I'm not exaggerating. But I think a lot of this is brought on by violence in the media. It's just constant violence. Where you look at some of these shows, and when you get to the commercials, and I'll say, a good example is Paramount. So you're watching your show on Paramount in the evening. One of the commercials is Dexter. Then you have another one for Yellow Jackets. And then there's other ones, I can't remember the names, but almost all of them are shootings and killing. And that just gets into your head if you see it over and over and over again. I'm sorry, it's going to get into your head. And if you have a kid that's watching it, well, it's going to get into their head even more. So you wonder why kids are so violent now. Because from the time they're born, they get all this stuff, and then in many cases, the parents just shove their kids in front of a TV. They let the TV be the parent, because I've seen it so many times. Then they give the kid a phone. So you're immersed in all this violent TV. Whereas when I was growing up, yeah, I'm aging myself. Oh, yeah, I'm aging myself. So, we had a lot of family shows. We didn't have all this stuff, and then it started in the 80s, I think. Or the early 90s, actually, where they had cops. Them boys. And that's when it really came to a head, where you started getting all these shows, these reality shows, and all this violence. So now it's constant violence. So you wonder why people don't have, why there's a lack of decorum in society. People just don't seem to care anymore. You can see it in the way they drive. People are driving faster. They're driving more recklessly. They don't give a crap. And I think a lot of that started with the pandemic too. The people seem more angry. Though there are enough friendly people where I'm at in Ohio, I can't generalize, but I do notice people seem angrier when you're at the store or something. They don't have a lot of patience. And it's almost like you also want to stay away from crowds too, which I do. I try to go to the stores earlier in the morning. I try to avoid the stores at peak hours. I try to avoid too much driving at peak hours. My husband doesn't mind going to the concerts and stuff where there's crowds, but I mean, I'll go if I have to, but I tend to avoid these things. So it's just, I've never liked crowds in the first place. I never had patience for crowds. So that's just how I've been all my life. I don't like crowds. Yeah, and then other thing I notice is people, they don't care. I mean, I like the casual cult. I like casual clothes, but a lot of people take it too far. And then you see a lot of these yoga pants and workspaces and stuff. I mean, yoga pants for work. But I definitely don't want to be a Karen about the dressing, because I'm kind of guilty. I like to wear my hoodie, I'm the hoodie girl. Something simple. But back in the day, it was easy just to wear a suit. I'd have a whole closet full of suits, and then I would just put it on and then bring it to the dry cleaners. So it was simple back then. But who wears suits now? If I came in a suit, they'd be wondering, where is she interviewing at? So I mostly go for simplicity. I personally can't really complain about the casual look. But the only thing I have to say that is Crapifies thing is the casual look goes way too far in some respects. And I mean, I see people in their pajamas going to the stores. I mean, that's where I say it's taken too far, that grown adults can't even take the time to put on day clothes. It's almost like some adults are becoming like little children. They can't even put on the right clothes. And then you just have to wonder if those people are just so full of apathy that they just don't care. And I think there's a lot of depression in society, and then that goes to the crapification, where medicine is just all about dispensing drugs. If we had a mental problem when we were little, we saw a psychologist and we just talked through our problems. And I have to say, I was on Ritalin when I was growing up, because I was hyper, and I still am kind of hyper, but I'm not taking any medications. But I was not given antidepressants and stuff like that if I had depression, and I thank God I was not. But it just seems like so many people I know are on antidepressants, and that's so unfortunate. And I have to fault the mental health industry for making everything into a disease that used to be considered just growing up. You had your pains, your trials and tribulations growing up, just like you fell off the monkey bars and you split open your knee. Well, you recovered. I had depression when I was a teenager, but I worked through it. And I saw a psychologist and worked through it. And then it was just getting around the right people, getting good influences where I was able to be on the right track. So I think a lot of that's missing for young people. They're just given these pills, these Ritalin or Adderalls and whatever else, all the antidepressants. And from all the books I've read, because I do read a lot, is that case after case, time after time, these people say in the book that it caused them to have urges to kill themselves or even to hurt others. And so you have to wonder, all these mass shootings, are they even talking about if these people were taking these antidepressants or the tranquilizers that are very frequently dispensed by these psychiatrists. So you got to ask if that has occurred, but you never hear anything about it. You only hear about the guns, and the guns don't just pick up themselves and shoot themselves. So that's a crapification, because when I was growing up, we didn't have all this medication dispensing. It's only been, especially in the last 10 to 15 years, where they updated the mental health guide and they added all these different conditions as a condition where they can dispense medication. So, because I read a book, I forgot the name, it was called Drug Nation, or it had the word nation in it, but I read the book 15 years ago, and it was a very in-depth discussion of this topic, and the stuff I've read since that, it just supports this book. And since then, you've had so many mass shootings, but they never talk about, okay, was this individual on medications? Because I have a neighbor that I grew up with, and he had problems as a kid. He got in trouble. He was taking drugs and all that. But we were friends. I didn't take the drugs, but I wasn't going to judge him because he had problems. And so when he was in his 20s, he started to straighten himself out, and he got married, and then he saw a psychiatrist, and unfortunately the psychiatrist prescribed him antidepressants. And so he took the antidepressants for a number of years, and then they switched them, and all of a sudden he's dead. He shot himself in the head. So I can't generalize and say for all people they should not take these things. I'm not a doctor, and I'm sure there's people that absolutely have to take them, like if they have manic depression, but I can't even say that. I'm not a doctor. But the thing I'm saying is that the medical profession refuses to advocate and advertise all over media that if you take more, even if you take more vitamin B supplements, if you're not deficient in the vitamin B supplementation, then you're not going to be as depressed. And granted, you might need to have some medication. I can't say for everybody, but I'm talking from personal experience, because I used to be a vegetarian, a full vegetarian, and I would say I had clinical depression. I wasn't out to kill myself or anything, but I think if I went to a doctor, they would have given me something. And then I read that if you're a vegetarian, well, you're most likely deficient in the B spectrum vitamins. So I went to a doctor, a general practitioner, and he took a blood sample, and I was very deficient. So I worked with the doctor to learn how to take the proper supplementation of the vitamin B spectrum, which I have done to this day, because while not a full vegetarian anymore, I don't eat a lot of meat. So I know I have to supplement, or else I get depressed. But that's never talked about with the doctors. You're just told, oh, go see a psychiatrist and take a pill. So then that is the other big thing. So I can go on and on all day. I've taken close to an hour probably, but that's my take on how I'd say the world is crapified. The society really needs help right now, and hopefully more people will wake up and see what's going on. So until the next time, la 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 la.